All right, I hope you guys are doing well. Unexpected snow day, pretty cool stuff. Just want to go over the exam with you today. I'm just going to keep it at that just because I understand snow day. Want to have fun, do whatever you want to do. Tomorrow we'll start chapter 2, research methods in psychology, and we'll get moving from there. All right, so vocab, structuralism, devoted to uncovering the basic structures. Oh, there you go, it says it right in the name. And make up mind and thought, looking for the elements of for the conscious experience. All right, behaviorism. Argue that true and objective science of psychology should only deal with observable events, stimuli from the environment, and the organism's response to stimuli. Psychoanalysis. Mental disorders resulted from conflicts of the unconscious mind. Biological view. Looks at how our physical makeup and the operation of our brains influence our personality preferences, behavior patterns, and abilities. Developmental view emphasizes changes that occur across our lifespan. Cognitive view. So our actions are a direct result of the way we process information from our environment. Humanistic view. Viewpoint which emphasizes human ability, growth, potential, and free will. Sociocultural view. Emphasize the importance of social interaction, social learning, and the cultural perspective. Functionalism. Theory that emphasized the functions, oh, there it says it again, of consciousness and the ways consciousness helps people adapt to their environment. Gestalt psychology. Instead of looking at the individual parts, I wanted to examine the whole. Remember the chair example I gave. All right, so multiple choice. In Sigmund Freud's view, the role of the ego is to mediate among the ID, the superego, and reality. Remember, that's our consciousness, right? That is our ability to kind of hide our id, right? Kind of hide our unconscious drives, our pleasures, and at the same time, our superego, right, is supposed to be mediate between that, our moral self, what we should morally present to the world and with our actions and our behaviors, which would be ideal, but doesn't happen all the time. All right, so here's a case study scenario. Chip believes that human behavior is generated in our unconscious minds and is a result to unresolved conflicts and desires, especially rooted in childhood experience. To which psychological perspective is Chip most likely to prescribe? So, psychodynamic, just because it details about the unconscious mind, it details about his conflicts and desires that are heavily rooted with childhood experience. So, it might have been something that he was traumatized by, right? It might have been something that he found, say, pleasure in before, and he wants to really just bring back and re-experience those pleasures or desires. Instead of studying his spelling words like everyone else, Scott copies from other people when the teacher gives a test. He better not be copying on my tests. B.F. Skinner, behavioral approach to psychology, would likely attribute Scott's cheating to B, the fact that he was rewarded for cheating on the test in the past. So he did it before, he got away with it, and he got a good grade. So Skinner saying, you know what, this is almost like a reinforcement, right? This is almost like a reward center, right? Where he was given a reward for cheating. He got away with it, he's going to do it again. Dr. Daughtry studies how thickness of the beaks of one species of birds has undergone changes in response to drought and other environmental factors over a long period of time. Which psychological approach does Dr. Daughtry take? This is the evolutionary approach. It talks about how these beaks of these certain birds evolved over a long period of time, depending on the environment, okay, and how they have to survive in that environment and how they undergo changes. All right, who is considered the father of psychology? Wilhelm Wundt. Okay, he came up with that structuralist approach using introspection, and his buddy Tishner really used that especially to try to detail and have some sort of basic laws established for psychology and studying the mind. The stage in Piaget's theory from birth to 2 years old, dealing with sensations and the senses. Sensory motor. I don't know how that one says it right there. Sensory motor, sensation, senses. Remember babies. They're always trying to observe and sense the world around them. Putting something in their mouth, playing with something, touching something, always intrigued by sounds, you name it. What did Freud consider to be the role of the id? The ID, right? This is to represent innate, instinctive desires and impulses. What is the role of the superego? This is to provide a conscious and awareness of morally correct responses and behaviors. Right, so this is the superego. Remember, morally correct. Morally correct morals, norms, characteristics, behaviors. It's like the angel on your shoulder, remember? And the id's like the devil. You are the ego. You got to solve between the two. Then the humanistic approach, which theory is used to describe a person's needs. Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And that's one of the short answers, so I'll go over that when we get there. What are the 4 goals of psychology? Description, explanation, prediction, and influence. Okay, we talked about that a lot. Description, observations. Okay, we're making these observations, we're detailing, write them down. Explanation, it's our hypothesis, our theory, right, where we're coming up with an idea of how to explain something. Prediction, what behaviors or characteristics might be presented after the study. Okay, after, or if someone continues this behavior. And then influence is how we're trying to influence that behavior. I gotta blow my nose real quick. Oh my god. I'm recording. Oh. All right, sorry about that. Here we go. So people matching. Developed a theory of psychological health predicated on fulfilling innate human needs and priority culminating in self-actualization. Abraham Maslow, father of American psychology, developed functionalism approach to psychology. William James, German psychologist who is the father of psychology, developed structural approach to psychology. Wilhelm Wundt, behavior psychologist, he developed the theory of operant conditioning, the idea that behavior is determined by its consequences, by reinforcements or punishments, tested on rats and pigeons. B.F. Skinner, founder of psychoanalysis, clinical method for treating psychopathology through dialogue between a patient and a psychoanalyst, developed iceberg theory. This is Sigmund Freud. All right, so Maslow's hierarchy, the pyramid. So we start off at the bottom, right? And this is physiological needs, so water, food, oxygen. We need that to live. Next one is safety needs. So we need to feel safe and comfortable in our environment. So housing, right? This is really just protection from the elements, the outside sources, whatever it might be. So safety. Then we're moving up to love and belonging. So we need some sort of relationships with a partner. Okay, this might be relationships, especially with our family, parents, brother, sister, grandparents, you name it. And then eventually branching off into love partners, right? So it might be a relationship that we have, like a girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever. And then next one is self-esteem. So what is something that we desire, something that we find interest in? So it might be hobbies, sports, it might be a job that you like to do. Who knows? Just collecting something, whatever it might be. My brother loves collecting football cards. A little crazy, but he loves it. And then finally, self-actualization. So self-actualization is just the idea of, it's almost like a relief in a way. Like you found and achieved your needs and your safety needs, your their basic needs, psychological needs, and now we're at their self-actualization, where we can sit back, relax, and enjoy our own interest and reflect on our day and note that we achieved everything we desired to achieve. All right, so let's describe all 4 Piaget's developmental stages. All right, so you had to be descriptive here, including ages, description of the stages, and examples. So first off, sensory motor, 0 to 2. Okay, and this is just sensations. This is just how babies just kind of walk around sensing the world around them. Hearing, taste, touch, smell, you name it. Vision, all the 5 senses, and how babies are always constantly trying to sense the world around them. With all their toys, it's plain simple how they try to do that. It's always different types of figures that they're holding, lights flashing, sounds, you name it. All right, next one is pre-operational stage, so 2 to 7. So it's like an intuitive age. This is an idea of imagination. This is egocentrism. They only see the world through their own shoes and only can explain things through their own observations, through their own experience with the outside world or with the world around them, to stimulus. Okay, and that's kind of falls into that. You have basic reading, writing, math, but nothing to full extent, anything like that. All right, next one, concrete operational. We have 7 to 11, and this is still building on that intuitive age a bit. You see that kind of phasing out during this stage. And science fiction is something that many of these children really experience and believe is true. With different types of movies, cartoons, whatever it might be, comic books. I still love comic books still. I think they're true. Spider-Man could happen, right, Tristan? Yeah, exactly. And this is still a form of egocentrism. It's phasing out at this time. And we have different types of rationale thinking. This is increasing at this age frame in this stage, but still not to a point where we can have viewpoints and perspectives of different types of scientific theory. So we're building on that during this stage. Okay. Relationships, we're building and understanding a little bit more of relationship building with other peers, friends. Okay, we're kind of stepping out that mold where we're sheltered by our family, right? And finally, we have concrete operational stage, and formal operational stage. And this is 13, 12, right? All the way up until you die, right? And we can understand different types of scientific reasoning, rational thinking, creative thinking. We can decipher between what is real and what is fake. We can really just build on relationships. We can understand different types of scheduling, organization, you name it. All right, finally, last one. Freud's psychodynamic view describe 3 forms of consciousness and how they relate. Okay, iceberg method, you name it. All right, so Freud always had this struggle with this idea of, how we are, our personality, our behaviors, the people we are built off this unconscious mind, this drive that is pushing us to achieve these hidden innate desires. Okay, and obviously if you gain a relationship with someone, you might present that a little bit more than the rest of people, because you don't trust them with those ideas, but you don't trust them with keeping those secrets. All right, so that was one of the biggest things with Freud. His iceberg method, we talked about that, the id, the ID, whatever you want to call it, underneath the water, hidden pleasures, drives, secrets, and this is hidden underneath, deep underwater, but at the same time, it's constantly trying to push, out of the water to show our actual self, our actual drives, our actual pleasures. All right, so superego, partially underwater, partially out of water. This is our moral self. This is our, I guess you could say, ideal self, people we want to be, the people we want to really present to the rest of the world. Doesn't come out all the time, but it's almost like a guideline for us that, hey, in this time, I got to really think about this. I have to understand who I am and my morals, my norms. Okay. And that is the pre-conscious, because we have to think about it, right? It just doesn't happen naturally. It's something that we have to, resort back to. We have to think. And that was a good example the other day when I asked Sarah about what's 2 plus 2. And she's like, oh, I instantly knew it was 4. She didn't have that in her mind all day she's thinking of, but she can draw that information pretty quick. It's right, really, in her mind. Okay. But she wasn't consciously thinking of it. She had no idea what question I was going to ask. All right, then finally, the ego. It's the mediator between the superego, which is like the angel on your shoulder, moral correct self, and then the id, which is like the devil. It is the pleasures, the secrets, the drives that we try to hide. The ego is just our conscious self. Okay, how we present our character, who we are morally, and who we are presenting, and our personality, our behaviors, and how we try to really manage between the two ideas right there. All right, so that's all I got. Tomorrow we'll move on with chapter 2. See you guys later. Have a good one.